Title: The Silent Rebellion, Africa Rises, and the Chosen Are Awakened.
I swear before the people of Burkina Faso and on my honor to preserve, respect, uphold, and defend the Constitution, the Transition Charter, and the laws, to make every effort to guarantee justice for all the inhabitants of Burkina Faso.
The world is turning against the US dollar. Recently, 81 nations gathered in Russia to discuss a new global financial system. Their goal? To replace the US dollar as the world's reserve currency. Putin went as far as calling the dollar a weapon, and he's not alone. BRICS is leading the charge, and now these nations are stockpiling gold at record levels, strengthening their own currencies, and ditching the US dollar in global trade. If the dollar loses its global status, the impact on Americans could be disastrous. But while governments are quietly preparing, most Americans are being left in the dark.
We spread the word, the enemy must not roll through here. 80% of my time, it's war. But that doesn't stop us from keeping an eye on the economic life and power. It's a promise you made to me, and I want you to keep your promise. I don't want it here anymore. We're being attacked. We see them coming. We agree, right? It's you who defend the communities, the villages. If you get there, you tell them. But what are we doing ourselves for our country? That's it. That's the question we need to ask ourselves now. We still shout that there are a minimum of things we should be able to do ourselves. I told you that most of you, like me, were born into a system, a caring system, where a lot is expected from others. We must work 24/7, 12 months a year. So we are in this rhythm. As long as the soldiers at the front have no rest, there is no reason for us to have rest behind. And so I invite the entire administration to fall in line to support it. So the living forces in everything they do. I think that little by little there is progress. We see many changes in behavior. We need to completely change the situation. Burkina Faso is a reference, and we must maintain a good relationship with people. Hold the torch very high. We need to manufacture many things locally. I am convinced that whether it's electric or motorized tricycles, we can manufacture them.
A massive gold deposit has been discovered in Burkina Faso, and President Ibrahim Traoré has announced that the wealth will be shared with every citizen. This historic decision makes Burkina Faso the first African country to distribute its natural riches equally among its people.
So on Truth Social, you said that you were going to cut aid from South Africa. Will you plan to cut aid across other African nations, and why South Africa?
No, it's only South Africa. Terrible things are happening in South Africa. The leadership is doing some terrible things, horrible things. So that's under investigation right now. We'll make a determination. And until such time as we find out what South Africa is doing, they're taking away land, they're confiscating land, and actually they're doing things that are perhaps far worse than that.
The security of President Ibrahim Traoré's domain, Burkina Faso, is only threatened if outside forces once again attempt to invade and conquer Africa. But that's not what's happening. What's happening is far greater. The West is panicking, not because of war, but because of loss of control. Because Africa is rising. Because gold, agriculture, and independence are no longer theirs to manage. The dollar is shaking, and they fear what comes next. With the cancellation of USAID, a move designed to starve and weaken the Sahel nations, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger were expected to collapse. Instead, they formed a new confederation, built their own bank, secured their own gold, planted their own crops, and rewrote their future. This wasn't supposed to happen. Africa wasn't supposed to survive without the West. They expected chaos, cannibalism, and civil war, like the hybrid abominations of old. They thought the spell would hold, but the Book of Enoch returned, and with it, truth. The Hebrew Israelites. They said we had no name, no lineage, no legacy. We were insulted, erased, oppressed, and rewritten. But now we know. We are the original children of the Most High. We are the 12 tribes, and 3 have already awakened. The rest are stirring. The West said we could never lead ourselves, that we needed their systems, their surveillance, their checkpoints. They forced us through Europe as a filter, monitoring who we are and what we take back home. But that era is over. We no longer sleep like enchanted captives. The sorcery, the chants, the programming, they no longer bind us. We are unveiled, we are the chosen, and we are free. President Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso has implemented significant reforms aimed at reclaiming national control over the country's gold resources and revitalizing its agricultural sector. Gold reforms and international tensions. In a decisive move, Traoré suspended export permits for artisanal and semi-mechanized gold production, aiming to clean up the sector and better organize the marketing of gold and other precious substances. He has also nationalized 2 gold mines and inaugurated a national gold refinery with a planned annual production capacity of 150 tons of 99.99% pure gold. These actions have led to tensions with foreign mining companies and Western governments, particularly the United States, which has expressed concerns about democratic backsliding and human rights abuses under Traoré's leadership. Agricultural initiatives. Traoré has launched the Presidential Initiative. This initiative has led to the establishment of 2 tomato processing plants, increasing tomato production from 315,000 metric tons in 2022 to 360,000 metric tons in 2024. Additionally, millet and rice production have seen significant increases. The government has distributed agricultural equipment and inputs worth over 78 billion CFA francs to enhance productivity and promote food self-sufficiency. Public opinion and international relations. Public opinion in Burkina Faso appears divided. While some citizens support Traoré's efforts to reclaim national resources and reduce dependency on Western powers, others express concerns about the potential for authoritarianism and the worsening security situation due to jihadist insurgencies. Traoré's alignment with Russia and expulsion of French forces have further complicated relations with Western countries. The United States faces a strategic dilemma in dealing with Traoré, balancing the desire to maintain influence in the Sahel region against concerns over governance and human rights. In summary, Traoré's policies reflect a broader trend among some African leaders to assert greater control over national resources and reduce reliance on Western nations. The long-term success of these initiatives will depend on their implementation and the government's ability to address security and governance challenges.
Russia is also a family for Africa. It's a family because we share the same history. Russia made enormous sacrifices to free the world from World War II. The African peoples, our grandfathers, were also forcibly deported to help Europe get rid of. We share the same history in the sense that we are the forgotten peoples of the world. Whether in history books, documentaries, or films, we tend to overlook the significant role that Russia and Africa played. Right now, we are here to talk about the future of our peoples. For a better future for our peoples, the questions that my generation is asking are the following. If I can sum it up, it's not understanding how Africa, with so many riches beneath our soil, with a generous nature, of water, with abundant sunshine, Africa is today the poorest continent. Africa is a hungry continent. And how is it that our heads of state are traveling the world begging? Here are some questions we are asking ourselves and for which we still have no answers. We have the opportunity to weave new relationships. And I hope that these relationships can be the best to provide a better future for our people. My generation also asked me to say that because of this poverty, they are forced to cross the ocean to try to reach Europe. They are ocean. But soon, they won't go across because they will come in front of our palaces to seek their daily bread. As for Burkina Faso, today we have been facing for more than 8 years. In the form of protest, The most barbaric, the most violent form of neocolonialism, of imperialism. Slavery still seeks to impose itself on us. Our ancestors taught us one thing well. The slave who is unable to take on their revolt does not deserve anyone to pity their fate. We do not seek pity for our fate. We do not ask anyone to pity our fate. The Burkinabe people have decided to fight against the hypocrisy that hinders their development. In this struggle, brave peoples, brave populations have committed themselves to take up arms against what we have indeed called the VDP, the volunteers. We are surprised to see the imperialists label these VDP as miras and all sorts of things. It's disappointing, because in Europe, when people take up arms to defend their homeland, they are called patriots. Our grandfathers were deported to save Europe. It was not with their consent, against their will. Well, upon their return, we remember well that in Tiaroy, when they wanted to claim their basic rights, they were massacred. It doesn't matter then. When we, the people, decide to defend ourselves, we are labeled as militant. But that's not the problem. What the problem is seeing African heads of state who bring nothing to these fighting peoples, but who sings the same tune as the imperialists, by calling us militant, by treating us as such, of men who do not respect human rights. What human rights are we talking about? We are outraged by this, and it's shameful. We, as African heads of state, need to stop behaving like puppets that dance every time the imperialists pull the strings. Yesterday, President Vladimir Putin announced the shipment of grains to Africa. We are very happy. We thank him for that. But also, it's a message sent to our African heads of state. Because at the next forum, we won't have to come here without having ensured. For those who are not familiar with the war, the food self-sufficiency of our peoples, we need to learn from the experiences of those who have already achieved this in Africa, to build good relationships here and to forge better ties with the Russian Federation in order to meet the needs of our populations.
If this message spoke to your spirit, subscribe to Forbidden Light. Hit like. Tap the bell for fresh truths, powerful stories, and light they tried to bury.